Welcome to the Movie Zone. Today we are recapping the 2006 action crime movie, Inside Man. A perfect robbery doesn't exist, or does it? Inside a prison-esque room, Dalton Russell tells us about how he made the perfect bank robbery happen. All because he can. But listen up. Let's get started. Outside the Manhattan Trust Bank, a van comes to a halt. A few people dressed as painters come out of the van and start unloading their equipment. One of the men, who appears to be their leader, simply walks inside the bank with seemingly zero resistance. He calmly walks to a location from where he is able to see all the CCTV cameras. He then directs his blinding light at the cameras, disabling them. After this initial task, the rest of the group enters the bank through the back door and shuts it closed. Before the security can stop them, the robber takes him hostage, and soon the rest of the bank's occupants follow. The group reveals their guns and drops smoke bombs to intimidate the crowd, while everyone lies flat on the floor. The whole bank is now being held hostage. Soon, the smoke starts to leak out of the street, and a policeman notices. He tries to open the door, but it's locked from the inside. Suddenly, one of the robbers comes out and warns the policeman in an East European accent. If he comes anywhere near that door, they will start killing the hostages inside the bank. The policeman does all he can and calls for backup. Soon the whole bank is surrounded by the media and police who set a perimeter around the bank. In the police station, Detective Bill Mitchell and Detective Keith Frazier are given control of the hostage situation, since their superior detective is absent. The two detectives are excited for their big break. They quickly head to the crime scene and meet up with a policeman who first came in contact with the robbers. They take what little detail he has about the situation and head to meet the in charge of the scene, Officer John Darius. Immediately, the detectives make sure that John knows they are the boss, not him. Inside the bank, the hostages are taken to the bottom floor, where the safes are located. The robbers then command them to separate into two groups. The bank staff is asked to stand on one side, and the customers on the other, and they are told to hand over their car keys and cell phones. The lady robber goes around collecting the items from the hostages, when suddenly, she signals the leader that someone hasn't submitted their phones. The leader goes up to the man, Peter, and asks him calmly to hand over the phone. Peter is adamant that he left his phone at home, so the man checks the collected phone one by one until he finds Peter's number and calls it. Suddenly, a very rad rap song echoes around the room. The leader finds the phone. He then drags the man to the other room and beats the living crap out of him. The other hostages are scared to their bones. After this, the hostages are again arranged into two lines of women and men. Then they are asked to strip to their underwear and put on the mask and costumes that the robbers have brought along with them. For some time, there is no movement outside the bank as the police patiently wait for the negotiations to begin. Just then, a few of the hostages dressed in blue overalls, pitch black goggles, and masked with a white handkerchief are released from inside the bank. The police immediately take these hostages into custody and interrogate them one by one. Inside the bank, the robbers have dressed up exactly like the hostages. There is constant surveillance, and the prisoners are kept in groups of 10 in each room. Every now and then, they themselves go into each of these rooms as hostages. They change hostages from one room to another constantly, so no one can know of the other person for long enough. Elsewhere, the owner of the bank, Mr. Arthur Case, is notified by his assistant that one of his bank's branches is being robbed. When he learns that it's the Manhattan branch, 32 at 20 Exchange Place, the color of his face changes. He quickly makes a call to a power broker, Miss Madeline White. He personally calls her, which surprises her, as Case is a big personality. Mr. Case asks her to do a job for him in full desertion. To give her the rest of the details, he comes to pick her up outside her office. More and more hostages are let go of the bank, and the detectives interrogate them. One of the hostages tells them that the robbers used the variation of the name Steve, like Steven, Stevie, Stevo, etc. The detectives are harsh in their interrogation with the released prisoners. They don't even leave to intimidate the old man. Elsewhere, Miss White and Mr. Case take a walk. Case tells him that he doesn't care about the bank, but he has his family heirloom hidden in that bank, which he doesn't want to fall in the wrong hands or the right hands. He wants it in his hands. In other words, he just doesn't want it discovered. White pesters him for the content of the family heirloom, but Case doesn't tell her anything specific. The detectives find the van in which the robbers had arrived, only to find that it's actually a stolen vehicle. After not being able to get any information of the inside, the detectives decide that it's best to call the robbers and ask their demands. The detective rings the phone of the bank, but the leader, Steve-O, ignores it. Inside the bank, Steve-O instructs Stevie, another one of the perps, to start digging in the storeroom. Sometime later, one more hostage is let out of the bank. It's one of the workers of the bank, Vikram Walia, who is a Sikh. He is sent out with a briefcase hanging on his neck. The racist cops immediately assume that he is a bomber and starts harassing him. The briefcase has the demands of the robbers. They have demanded a jet to get them out of there. If their demands are not met soon, they will be shooting people one by one. The police officers and the detectives are brainstorming what the hell they are supposed to do when they get an unexpected visitor. It's Arthur Case. He wants to stay with them until the case is solved, which is a wee bit suspicious in my opinion. The cops, however, do not allow the stressed out man to stay. Another hostage is let out, this time surrounded by two of the robbers. He brings a paper along with him. The robbers are asking for food for the hostages. The police officers decide to send in pizza so that when they all huddle up to eat, they can add a few transmitters and record what they are saying. The plan works, and by nighttime, they have a clear transmission of the voices inside. There's one problem, however. It's Russian, or everybody thinks it's Russian. While the other cops figure it out, Agent Keith is summoned by the mayor of New York. He is in the car with Miss White. They both want Keith to give full control of the case to Miss White and allow her to do whatever she wants. They promise him a promotion if he says yes, and well, a pretty messed up career ahead if he disagrees. Keith tells him that he will think about it, and leaves. A Russian translator soon arrives, but he can make no sense of the audio they are receiving. Keith asks the officer there to play it on speaker so that the public gathered outside can hear. One of the men outside tells them that it's Albanian. He, however, does not speak a word of Albanian. He tells them that because his ex-wife was Albanian and used to scold her in Albanian. Unlucky for the guy, he has to call his wife for the translation. The woman arrives with a pile load of parking tickets and translates only on the condition that the parking tickets are taken care of. The officers agree, and she tells them that it's a famous speech about the great communist country of Albania, made by their dead president. The cops had been made a fool of. The robbers finally reveal themselves. Steve-O is actually Dalton. The robbers head straight for vault number 392 and nothing else. The vault has a Nazi-labeled paper in it, and below it, a separate case filled with bags of diamonds. That night, Keith decides on allowing Miss White to take the case in her hands. She is then escorted inside the hostage building, where she talks with Steve-O. She offers him a lot of money to protect her interest, Mr. Case. Dalton is having none of it. He tells her that he has everything he needs right here with him. He doesn't need her help, since she doesn't even know what she is protecting Case for. He shows her the Nazi papers from before and tells her that Case was a man who worked with the Nazi and became rich on the blood of millions of Jews they had slaughtered. He knew everything there was to know about Case, and he knew he could get very rich if he held on to the papers. Miss White is forced to return frustrated, so Keith is forced to take matters into his own hands. He calls Dalton and tells him that his plane is ready, but before that, he wants to see if all the hostages are well. Dalton is very confident in his plan, and so he agrees. The detective walks in and slowly surveys the situation of all the hostages, and Dalton lets him do so with no resistance. After doing so, Keith comes in clean. He tells Dalton that he knows he doesn't want a plane and is stalling for something which he doesn't know yet. He tells Dalton that there's no way out for him and he should just surrender. But Dalton tells him confidently that when his job is done, he will walk out of the front door. Dalton then escorts the man out, but on the way, the detective tries to be cheeky and force open Dalton's mask just to have a glimpse of his face. Fortunately, the other Steve helps him out, and Keith has to return. The detective does find out one thing though. He knows the robbers aren't killers. He announces this to his friends only to face his worst dream minutes later. Dalton calls the cops and tells them to point their surveillance cameras to the 5th floor. There, they demonstrate the killing of their first hostage. Everyone, especially Dalton, is perplexed. The detective rushes to the front door of the bank only to receive another cold, calculated threat from Dalton. 3 a.m. that night, the supervisor who put Mitchell and Frazier on the case arrives to put them out of the case. The hostage death has meant that the detectives must now pull out of the case and let officers of the NYPD, led by Captain Darius, handle the job. Captain Darius then plans a raid of the bank. They calculate the number of casualties and the ways in which they can actually raid without harming hostages. The plan is discussed for the whole night, and early next morning, the officers are ready for the operation. Just before Darius's men can barge in through the front gate, Frazier finds that the briefcase with the first demands of the robbers was actually bugged with a mic, and their whole plan from last night had been leaked. He tells this to Darius and asks him to stop the operation. However, Darius is adamant on his plan. Inside, Dalton hears everything the cops are talking about and decides to end their charade. They start releasing all of the prisoners at once, and the members of the robbery. All of the Steves also escape alongside them. After leaving their guns inside, the police enter the bank and find that not a single penny had been stolen from the safes or the vaults. In fact, most of it was untouched. The death sentence from last night was hoax as well, made up with fake blood. And finally, the guns used were actually toys. The detectives can't help but smile at this. Each of the hostages are interrogated, but none of them are able to identify the actual robbers that had hidden amongst them. It was a perfect crime. Miss White then goes to meet Arthur Case and confronts him about the Nazi accusations. After some deliberation, the man accepts it. He tells her that he was young and foolish and wanted to earn some money quickly. He has repented all his life and will take no bullcrap from White about morality. Miss White warns him that the robbers didn't just come there for the papers, there was something else in the safe that they took. Arthur confirms that it must be the ring, which belonged to one of the French Jews. Arthur had betrayed them for money in his youth. Disgusted, White gets up to leave, but not before Arthur can give her a blank check to keep her mouth shut. On the other hand, Frazier can't let go of what happened and plans to investigate further into the case. He finds that White was working for Case and finds there is some secret in vault number 392. A week later, we see Dalton. He is in a prison-esque room. It is apparently a false room made behind the storeroom's cabinets inside the bank. Dalton had been inside there for a week now. He removes the part of the fake wall and walks out of the room. The two detectives arrive hoping to check vault number 392. Dalton bumps into Frazier on purpose while heading out. He walks out the front door. Outside, his accomplices pick him up, but they are frustrated when they learn that he left the ring behind. He assures them it was the right thing to do, because in the world, respect and morality is the biggest thing. He would never surrender that. In the bank, the detectives find the ring and a note that says, "Follow the ring." It leads them straight to Arthur, who, it's fair to say, is pretty much peeing his pants when he is confronted by the detective about his misguided past. Frazier then returns home after a long day of work, back to his girlfriend, and while he clears his pockets, he finds a diamond in his pocket. He then remembers when he bumped into Dalton and realizes that the man that he had been wanting to catch had walked past him and straight out of the bank's front door. Frazier smiles a tired smile. What do you think about this gripping movie? Tell us in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.